Welcome to the Science of Life podcast, where we dive deeper into topics like ayurveda, yoga, nutritional science, and personal development. Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Science of Life podcast. I'm happy to have you with me for an interesting interview with Canadian-born entrepreneur Aren Bahia. He lives in Bali and started his 5th business in 5 years. We talk about how he left a very painful life in Canada where he was dealing drugs, and how he came to Bali to start his own healing and found a way to be a businessman and at the same time giving back to the community. This interview is a story that inspires, and I hope you get the most out of the interview. And I hope that if you at a point where you feel like you hit rock bottom, you feel inspired to start a full reset, how Aren calls it. Without further ado, please welcome Aren Bahia. Hi Aren, it's so nice to have you on the podcast, The Science of Life. Thank you for having me actually at your place.
That worked out.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Astana, our headquarters for Yogi Lab. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I already talked to Sasha about the Yogi Lab a bit, so that's one of the things you co-founded also. And I would love for people to have a short introduction about yourself. What is it that you do? Where are you at right now?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, absolutely. My name's Aren Bahia. I'm an entrepreneur, born and raised in Vancouver, Canada. I'm of Indian descent. I've moved to Bali about 5 years ago. And I started now, I did 4 businesses in 4 years. Now I'm going on 5 businesses in 5 years. So we've opened up a business every year here in Bali. I've transformed my life from somewhat of a chaotic past, not exactly being a good boy, to now doing things that make my mom and dad proud here in Canada. And just a complete shift, a full reset.
Yeah, you had really a full shift, I would say, or a full reset. Before we dive into that, maybe you tell us a little bit more about your business and maybe also what brought you to Bali or to set up a business in Bali.
What brought me to Bali? Julia Roberts.
Eat, Pray, Love?
Eat, Pray, Love. Julia Roberts saved my life.
Gosh.
Yeah. That's why my Instagram's Ink, Pray, Love. And then when everybody says that, they're like, wow, you're cheesy. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I saw that movie during a really vulnerable time in my life. I did some plant medicine called iboga. It's like an African plant root from Gabon, in the Gabon region in Africa. I didn't know where that was either. Don't worry about it. And I had a vision during one of the days after a big long medicine ceremony in the evening. I saw Julia Roberts show me the way of Bali, and I looked at that and I was like, I don't even know where that is, but I need to be there. I was in the fast-paced life of Vancouver. Everyone around me, including myself, was involved in organized crime. It was just a world I got sucked into, and I realized at that point I was spiritually poor. And I was trying to get monetarily rich, but I was myself a mess when it came to my own inner world. So when I saw somewhere where people just felt connected, there was ceremony, there was intention, I was just like, whatever that is, I need it. And so I Googled flights to Bali, and I had to figure out where Bali was. I was like, oh, Indonesia, great. Where's Indonesia? Click, 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 click. And I was like, really, it's there? Because I thought it was closer to Japan. Okay, I booked a flight, and I showed up there by myself. About 5 years ago, and I was blown away by the amount of transformation I could have. You know, anybody listening, the biggest shift you can have, I'd say, is go somewhere alone. Go travel without your friends. Go travel without your family. Just go somewhere by yourself and see who you really are. And that's what I did in Ubud, Bali. I did a bunch of yoga, drank a bunch of green juice, went to a bunch of weird things my friends would make fun of me for in my old neighborhood. I did a bunch of things that were way off of the norm that was okay where I grew up in. And that made me grow exponentially. And so Bali saved my life. Yeah.
Wow.
And the businesses, sorry, that's what you asked next. So I came out here after I went home and sold all my stuff. I wanted to make Bali work. So I got a little taste of Bali that first trip. I did a yoga teacher training. I wanted to learn new things. I wanted to, grow as much as I possibly could. And I realized this is the place I could do it. So when I went back home and sold everything I had and moved out here, I had the idea just for a really basic business that was a bit low maintenance, and I started a bed and breakfast. And then it wasn't too long that I got involved with all the tattoo guys out here, because I had a lot of tattoos from Canada. That was a lot of the culture that I came up in, was tattoos. Everybody had tattoos. When I came here, I started getting more tattoos and getting really acquainted with the locals here. You know, I learned the language, I got in close with the guys, and I had an Airbnb bed and breakfast, but we started tattooing out of the dining room in the bed and breakfast, which was crazy fun. It was really like weird and fun times. And I realized that the tattoos, I had way more passion and it was way more fun to do than the bed and breakfast. Because I thought I was going to come out here and open boutique hotels and become a real estate mogul. And I was like, that's the path, yeah. And it's funny when you have an idea of something and then you find things that actually make your heart happier and made more money. It's because I was more passionate about it. Everywhere I went, I was, you know, people knew I was the tattoo guy. So it just worked. So before long, I opened up the first tattoo shop, the first business, Conscious Arts Tattoos, after I had the idea in a meditation retreat in India on the path of soul searching, you know, trying to figure out who I am and what I'm doing. I just had a great idea, seated there in meditation in the Himalayas. And it was just like, yeah, I could do some good with the tattoo shop. And that was the difference between all the other shops in Bali, was we were the only good karma tattoo shop. So we had vegan ink, and we gave back to a school for mentally disabled Balinese children. We partnered with them before we even opened, and we said, as long as we're open, we're going to help this school. And so we just became partners. And that, I feel like, was a huge shift in people's perspective around the tattoo game, that they're not all just for criminals and gangsters. They could actually be for yogis. And so we serviced a lot of the yoga community. And so we did a lot of beautiful yogi tattoos and did a lot of charity work. And that business instantly became the most successful tattoo shop in Ubud. And I grew that and opened up Karma House Bali, which is also a social impact initiative, but it had a yoga studio, a tattoo shop, and a cafe, like a superfoods cafe. And that was a pretty fun business to do. And I think that's how we connected through the tattoos when you originally were going to come and become a client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when I first stumbled upon your Instagram account. I think it was through Mark Bredna, which is also like a yoga teacher. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I really got interested in how you link the business with like giving back to the community, because some people, you know, it's all about the business part, right? And of course, it might be appealing to set up a business in Bali. It might be easier. Some parts might be more difficult. But from the very start, you came here and you, like, not only that things unfolded for you, you also used that to give back to the place where you chose to make your home. And I think that's really empowering, because a lot of people think, okay, especially in the spiritual world, sometimes we have these issues around money. I don't think money is a bad thing. I think you are the example of how you can use the money you make, the energy you put into something, get back, and then just like put it back into a cycle, right?
Yeah. No.
So, how did that come into play?
You know what? It came from exactly what you're saying, like not a healthy relationship with money. So when I first came to Bali, I needed to just heal. And, you know, I made money in ways that didn't make my parents proud. As I mentioned earlier, I was trafficking narcotics, and it was really a dirty game that didn't make me feel good inside. And I told myself, like, I'll never do that again. I sold myself out. I sold my morals out. I sold my soul out trying to do something, because I just wanted a fancy Mercedes and I wanted fancy clothes and I wanted people to think I was a baller. And that's not the way to happiness. You know, I got all those things and I was still terribly depressed. And I think a lot of people at home can really feel that. Like, there has to be a good why in what you're doing. It can't just be about the money, because it's never enough. And so when I came out here, I didn't make money really well for a good year. The bed and breakfast did well. I was a super host, great, awesome. But it was like, it wasn't making my heart sing. And when I started knowing, when I knew that I'm only going to do things that are juicy to me, that I know are helping people, and the money will come, it shifted. And then business started doing well, you know, and I was happy and I was proud about it. And that was a big difference for me. So if you're starting a business at home, if you can give back while you're making money, you'll be a lot happier than if you're just making money.
Yeah. And you said something interesting. You said you've been spiritually deprived. You come from a rich cultural background, because you're Indian, as you said, although you grew up in Vancouver. take us back. How was that Aren different in Vancouver, and why would you say you were spiritually deprived?
So my family immigrated from India to Canada, my grandfather, in like the 50s. And so my dad was born in Canada, and it wasn't cool to be Indian at that time in Canada. There was very many Canadian, Indo-Canadians. And so he went really on the other end and tried to be as Canadian as possible, and we weren't very in touch with our roots. And so I didn't grow up that way. And then when I started going spiritual seeking and I started, trying to actually find something more in life, I realized there's so much rich culture within me. And so when I went on my solo journey to India, I was like, whoa, I have all this power inside of me that I can tap into. If I just learn it, it'll come naturally to me. And it changed my life. It was something so valuable. And you don't have to be Indian to tap into this stuff, right? I mean, yoga's huge now, Indian culture. Buddhism, huge. There's things that you can tap into that are ancient practices that I tapped into Taoism. I tapped into Muay Thai, a practice from Thailand that has deep, deep roots. Sure, it's a combative martial arts, but there's actually can be a spiritual practice. You can actually turn anything that has deep, ancient roots into something that'll serve you with power. So you don't have to be Indian to tap into that. There's so many practices out there that are juicy and made it thousands of years because there is power in them. So I went to all these other countries in Southeast Asia while I was here and just started seeking. Just started learning from them. So I was in the Himalayas in Bhutan, learning about Bhutanese Buddhism. I was learning about Tibetan Buddhism. I started learning about Zen, and I started diving into the indigenous cultures. And I was like, okay, wow, there's knowledge here that I can jump into. So I didn't go to business school, but I started going into spiritual school because business I could kind of figure out, but spirituality was deeper, and that would help me in everything I'm doing.
Yeah, and what made you do that shift? When you say like, wow, I come from a background that I got really deep into some struggles and I was not on the right path. And sometimes that's really sticky, right? Like it's so hard when you're in certain patterns just to lift yourself out of that. What made that shift for you?
Rock bottoms are a beautiful thing. Really, and I had a lot of chaos in my life. I went through a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and I didn't want to keep going that way. And I think if you're reached a point where you just don't want to do this anymore, you've had enough of the same shit, and you're ready to shift, that's a beautiful place to be when you had enough. And a lot of people figure that's like a failure, but that's actually a beautiful start to something different. And I'm so grateful that I had all those. And it took me a while because when you're in it, you don't really feel too grateful. You don't really feel too lucky. But when you get out of it and you've realized you've been through some stuff, but you came out with wisdom, that's luck. So I feel like people who have never gone through anything in their whole lives, you're missing out. You're missing out on life experience because you're going to come out and you can use that to do amazing things. You can create from that space. All you got to do is do the work to get out of it. And so I'm grateful for everything I've been through because it gave me all this depth of experience and I can understand and relate to everyone now. So helping people now is such a beautiful thing because usually what they're going through, I've probably done something worse, something crazier.
Yeah. So how would you say that still influences what you do? What was the biggest learning, or how would you say that shaped you, and why was that so valuable? Because sometimes we look back with shame and regret and all that stuff.
It was a bit dark because I was a bad drug dealer because I got high on my own supply, and that's a rule that you shouldn't. That's a good rule, and I should have listened to that one. And I was really, really totally addicted, and there was no way that I was going to be able to get out of it, staying in where I was staying. But I made it through that, and I overcame my addiction, which is something not a lot of people get through. And I've lost many friends through addiction. Many friends are dead now because of that. And when I got through it and I was able to steady make it, it gave me so much pride. It gave me so much self-confidence because if I can make it through something a lot of people don't, I can do a lot more in my life. That's just a stepping stone. Like if you can make it through a hard time, you're left with power. You're left with surety that hey, what's the worst that could happen? I can make it through the worst that happened. I got through the other side, and then you can go on to do amazing other things because you're not scared anymore. And it's like, I've done worse. I've felt worse, and so it gives you a bit of confidence.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's such an important point, to hit rock bottom. And we're often so afraid to hit rock bottom, right? That's all we do, like, to avoid, right? And yeah, you said something really interesting about, you know, you were so focused on making that money, like basically being on top, right? And not like, yeah, going maybe to places where you didn't want to be and still got caught into things where you didn't want to be. How did yoga help you with that and meditation?
It was massive in my life because before that, you couldn't get me to sit down in a room. I had 3 cell phones. I was managing many people. I was always a hyper functioning person. And yoga helped me channel that because I needed to be able to actually channel all this energy that I had in me that wanted to do many things. I needed guidance. And yoga was finding that guidance and calm and clarity within me. And after I started practicing yoga, then I was able to meditate. I needed to be able to sit on do a yoga practice on a mat and stay there for 90 minutes. And once I was able to do that, I started off at the back of the class, and then I was able to do well enough where I felt confident at the front of the class. And then I was able to start meditating, and then I was able to start going to meditation retreats. And then one door opened up to another, to another, to another. And now I'm a partner in Yogi Lab, and we're giving free online Vipassana classes to the whole world. And so it's like the practice opens doors. And just starting with yoga was my gateway into an entire different life that I never thought I was going to live.
Yeah.
It was huge for me.
And thank you for saying that again, because some people think they need to start with a full reset all over again, you know, and just like do all at once. Meditate for 1 hour a day, or like do 90 minutes of Ashtanga every day, right? And like you said, sometimes you just take it step by step. You have a lot of energy, like first do the asana, right?
You know how much I started with meditating? It was 5 minutes. I was using Headspace. I was using that timed app, and I was like, 5 minutes. It was like that was a goal for me. And when I nailed 5 minutes, I was like, okay, 10 minutes. And then I did 10 minutes, and I was like, wow, I got 10 minutes done, yay. Tick. And then I did 15 minutes, and then I did 20 minutes. And when I hit 20 minutes, I started seeing some real benefits of it. But the first 5 minutes I got done just made me feel better because I could do a thing. You know, it's like that little check mark that we all need to start building momentum. So starting with 5 minutes is totally okay. You know, and then you can get up to, you know, 2 hours in full lotus, and, you know, you're hallucinating and tapping into other realms, which is a thing. But I just mean 5 minutes, start off with that is super important.
Yeah. And you looked into a lot of different methods, as you mentioned. What would you say was the most transformative method you looked into?
I mean, there's a lot. You know, there's a lot. But I want to tell you a little minor story because I did a lot of things. And I want to tell you the most spiritual moment I ever had. So, you know, it didn't come. I did ayahuasca, I did kambo, I did bufo, I smoked frog toad venom. You know, I did many things, and then I did lots of yoga, lots of meditation, breath work, all that. And the most spiritual moment I had ever had was with my guru in India when I went to go see him at his ashram, but it wasn't in a class or a practice, it was buying vegetables with him and at a market. And that really showed me because of his presence and because of the love that he brought. And so he was in this chaotic Indian market, and he had asked for a volunteer to come with him to the market. One of the staff didn't come that day, and I shot my hand up right away. I was like, oh my God, I'll come with this guy. Like, he's amazing. I just want to be around him. And then I'm watching him drive, and I'm like, wow, Guruji's driving. Like, because I thought, put him on a pedestal. And then I was like, we'll go to a market, and it's a chaotic, busy Indian market in the morning. It's just hectic, and he's just floating through it. I was like, wow, like, he's doing people things. And I saw a real person being spiritual, doing real people things. And it was that, watching that was, okay, you don't have to be all high and mighty living in a cave. You can just do normal things, but bring that full presence of your practice and love into it, and watch the world, how it moves around you. And that right there showed me that presence was the biggest spiritual practice that I could actually show up with. And the quality of my presence, mind what I bring, the energy that I bring to the game, and bring love to it. And I still haven't perfected that. I mean, he's quite ahead of me, but seeing him do that was the most spiritual practice I saw, was bringing love into your presence.
Yeah, that's such a profound thing, and thanks for sharing that, because, you know, sometimes we think, oh, we need to try all these different things, right? and we keep looking and looking. Do you think that can be an issue, like to become addicted to search?
Absolutely. I mean, I did everything like that I thought I should do. I did many things, but then we forget how simple it is just to operate from a place of presence, love, kindness, clarity. Like those are the things that you need. So there's lots of different ways to get those things. Find the one that you enjoy doing, that you want to do. It could come from many different practices, but as long as that's what the end result is that it makes you a happier person and people like being around you more, and that's important, then do that, you know? So like yoga was great for me. I loved it. It made me a better person. Meditation, great for me. It makes me a better person. I'm constantly consuming different information through books and watching things and just doing whatever I can that gives me that perspective of being more present and happy and spreading love, because that's in the essence of what spirituality should be. You know, I don't have to be saging everyone and ringing bells. That's all great if that works for you, awesome. But can you go to a busy Indian market and not lose your shit? That's spirituality.
It's so important, and I feel like a lot of people miss that point, right? It's one thing how we are when we practice on our yoga mat, how we sit in a Vipassana meditation, but it's actually, as you said, the spiritual practice is not lose your shit at an Indian market. You know how hard that is, right? So yeah, thanks for sharing this. I would love to go a little bit into how you set up like your business here and how that idea of like now what you learned plays out into your everyday life, right? How you just manage, or not to, if you say like you have now 5 business, like it blows my mind, right? So how do you manage all of that, not becoming that too busy, and maybe also have a spiritual practice for yourself?
I am too busy, but I'm able to manage it because of the spiritual practices. Absolutely. Like that is what's going to keep you together. That's what's going to help you manage all the stuff going on. And that's what I need in my life is if I don't nourish myself with the practice that helps me be more centered and grounded, I don't think I could manage all the things I'm doing. So spiritual practices widen our bandwidth to be able to handle things. We have more capacity to handle things. You know, otherwise the weather will piss you off. Otherwise, you know, somebody being late will piss you off. And then how are you going to create from a place of love? Or how are you going to be, you know, switched on and focused because you're triggered by all these things? So I think if a spiritual practice doesn't make you more capable in business, it's not a great spiritual practice, because that's what we're doing this all for, is to be capable human beings, be happy, be able to create. And that comes from being centered. So I need to do these spiritual practices so I'm centered, so then I'm able to be creative, so then I'm able to also be less triggered, so I can work with all the people from all the different businesses and they don't think I'm some big jerk. That's important. Spiritual practices should make you less of a jerk.
Yeah, I think also that's an important point, right? When you say you use spiritual techniques, not with this big goal of becoming enlightened, but to use it for your everyday life. When you now look at where you are right now, what would you, or if you could give advice to people, people who maybe have that chaotic part in their life and they just don't know where to start from, how do you make that shift? And you said like finding what really makes you happy. For some people that's so difficult, you know. You just go like, oh, if I'm not busy, what makes me happy then?
Yeah, because I had that issue. I was a workaholic, and I put a lot of importance around what I was getting, or what I was setting up. How rich can I become? How can I do these things? And that's not the way for happiness. So I'd say for a lot of people starting out, is the first thing is awareness of how you're feeling. You know, is what you're doing right now working? Are you truly happy? And if that's a no or a sometimes, okay, what can you do to be happier? And that's what we do, is we experiment. That's what Yogi Lab's all about. We're experimenting on things that work. And is it making you more capable, effective, and happy? And that's what these practices do. Okay, try this. Try breath work. How do you feel after breath work? Great. Now how does the rest of your day go? Are you happier? Are you kinder to people? Do you have better ideas? Great, this works. Okay, next one, yoga. Does your body feel better after it? Yes, I feel great after I do yoga. I'm not so stiff and sore. I'm getting old. So it's like, yeah, I gotta take care of myself. These are the things that really work. So if they work, then do it. And that it doesn't have to be one specific thing, as long as it's working for you. So that's what we're doing here, is just stuff that worked for us. It showed results. We're able to be effective in the business world now. Then let's keep doing it, and let's do more, and let's share it with people. And that's the whole ethos behind of what we're doing, is we want to be better and more effective human beings in business and personally. And if we can do both those things well, then we know that what we're doing is gold. It's working.
Yeah, and also you founded Istana, right?
No, I didn't found Istana. My business partner Dave found it.
Your business partner,
yeah,
right?
I met Dave in a hot tub on my birthday, and I was finishing my teacher training, and I had just gone and done my first Vipassana in Myanmar, and I was like, wow, I did a Vipassana. Like, I was all stoked about it. And I walk into this spa, and I see this guy meditating on the end of the fire. I'm like, damn, that guy can meditate. He's just looking like a statue. And we both looked at each other. We're kind of like, we should be friends. Like, it was just that look of like recognition. You ever like see somebody from across the room and you're just like, you're cool, let's be friends. That type of look. Mm-hmm. That's what we had for each other. And so he came into the hot tub directly to talk to me. And I was just like, yeah, great. Like, now we're going to talk. It was supposed to happen. And I was telling him I just did my first Vipassana. He's done about 500. Or at that point, I think he did 30. And I was just like, oh my God, like, that's amazing. He's like, I'm building a meditation center. And I was building Karma House. So I was like, oh, I'm building a business too. In my head, my huge ego, I'm like, his is probably some little hole in the wall. Like, I just came from one in Burma. It's probably some little shack, and I'm building Karma House to be this massive, amazing thing. It's like, what you're doing is cute, Dave. And so I'm thinking in my head. And I was teaching yoga in the prisons at that point. And that was finishing my second yoga teacher training. And he was like, I want to come teach meditation in the prisons. I was like, cool, come, let's be buddies. And so he started coming up to Ubud to meet me and teaching me meditation, helping me get deeper in it. We were meditating I had this little rice paddy house, and he'd come to my house and we sit there and meditate together. And he was just such a good friend to me, And he was like, yeah, the meditation center is coming in cool. We're putting in trees. I'm like, neat. Like, I can't wait to see it. In my head, it's probably going to be cute. Like, that's great. This little shitty thing, like my ego. And then I finally come 6 months later and I see it's this multi-million-dollar world-class cliffront spa, like one of the nicest properties I've ever been to. And I was humbled instantly. The assumptions I was making. And I see this, and then I looked at him and I'm like, you were hiding this from me the whole time? You didn't tell me this is what you were building? And he's like, I was just like, damn, that is humility. I got taught humility. I got taught to be humble, and he was just a shining example of that, to like create and build something. And it was from his meditation practice that he's able to manifest this and build something amazing.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, I only pretend I'm the owner of the Astana when he's not around. And when he's on the other end of the pool and I'm with someone that I've already told, I'm like, oh, that's Dave. He cleans the pool. So I'm like, hey, Dave. And he waves back. I'm like, you're doing a great job. And he's like, great. They can't hear that. So that's my running joke. I hope Dave doesn't hear this.
I think, being at the Astana, it's really, sometimes we see things from the outside and you said like, wow, it's this fancy thing. But I feel like at the core of it, it's like really, like you said, it's humility, and it's like giving people a space where they can meditate, no phone policy, Yes. And I would love to know what health means for you now, also coming from your background, maybe not giving too much shit about your health, and now you're really conscious about, what's good for your body and the way you want to live. So take us with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not take care of my health in my early 20s. I did excessive amounts of drugs. I ate anything I wanted, and I was it's not the example of health. And when you're young, you can just feel like you can do whatever you want, you'll be fine. You can go to a rave and then go to work the next day or something, and I'll be fine. And it's not the case anymore. And I see that now, that I need to really take care of my health because I want to be in optimal state. And I really see that how much better of a person I am when I have discipline and when I'm eating well and I'm sleeping early and I'm, getting a massage a week and I'm using the hot and cold plunge and I'm doing the little things that all add up to a better version of me. And it's so important. So I went to India, I did a bit of Ayurveda. I'm a very pitta person.
I can't tell.
What do you mean? And so I did searching for my own health, and that made me a happier person. And what I've really liked is just finding which diets worked for me, and different ones have different outcomes, and what kind of mode I'm in, and not being attached to any one thing, and just everything serves a purpose. And I really need to figure that out for my own health. It's still a work in progress, but I'm seeing just how important it is now that health and being health conscious makes you a better human for yourself, and then you're a better human for everyone else. So you got to take care of yourself. Definitely. I'm not saying don't ever party, but what I'm saying is remember, you can't do it all the time. You're going to feel crappy the next day. So take it easy.
Yeah. How did Ayurveda help you to figure out maybe also the type of diet you need or what your body actually needs?
It really upset me because I love chili peppers. I love spicy food, and I'm very pitta. And it's like, oh, you shouldn't have hot food anymore. And I was just like, because I like spicy food. And so it was funny. But then it also showed me that certain foods make me feel better. And so this is what I really like. My big takeaway out of that was what's going to make me feel better and the science of why. And then I already liked those things anyways. Like I loved grounding foods. I love khichdi. I love chickpeas. And that's in my blood and heritage and where I'm from. It's like that's what my ancestors ate. And I always wondered, I like them. And then when I saw the why of, hey, this is what it does for you, it made me like them more. And it's kind of like when you're a kid and your mom's like, eat your broccoli. And you're like, nah. And then you grow up and you're like, broccoli is a great source of iron. You're like, I guess I like iron, and now I like broccoli. You're like, I want more broccoli in my life. And you get to know the why behind things, and then it's so much easier to make choices. And you get to see that oily foods aren't good for me. I'm very pitta. Oily foods are bad for you. And I always wondered why I didn't feel very great after I ate anything fried or oily. I mean, none of us do. But the why behind something, you get knowledge, you get to figure out what's going to work for you, and then you start to crave what works for you. So knowledge is huge to make better decisions.
Yes, I think so too. And that's the interesting part about Ayurveda, like somehow your body knows it, but like you sometimes need the proof. And I think for Pitta people, it's more important to know the why too. So I think that's a really beautiful approach. Like you said, that's what I do. I fuse Ayurveda with modern science. Like you said, if I know the nutrients I actually need, or I think also for some nutrients, it's different for everybody, right? For me, it's zinc, I always feel like I easily become zinc deficient, So I wonder why I crave certain foods like sesame, for example, so I think that's a really interesting approach to just not go always with the rules, but to just like experience things, How do you feel like also mentally if you eat a lot of spicy foods, right?
I'm angry. You know what I loved about the mental part from Ayurveda was it showed me which times that I'm going to be powerful. So I'm a morning person, and I always kind of was, but my most productive times are going to be like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that's like a very pitta time, right? Or sorry, that's time when pittas can activate and get going. And then from 11 to say 3, I'm like, meh. Like middle of the day, I just want to chill. I just want to nap. During the hot part of the day, the very pitta part of the day, I'm supposed to chill. And now I realize it's not just I just drink 4 more coffees. It's like, no, this is the time when you're biologically gonna chill. So just chill, man. Don't fight it. And that helped me so much. And then 4 o'clock comes around. Oh, I have more energy. I can create some more things. And I'm just realizing that there's an ebb and flow that you can work with. So you don't have to think that you're bad at certain parts of the day. It's just how your body's made up. And that way, from that, you can optimize. Play to your strengths.
Yes, that's so important because I feel like also with the chronotypes, right? Like figure out which hour of the day works for you, If you're more kapha, maybe the afternoon is better, And then you just like put your task into that time frame, right? So I think that's a really smart approach too, right? To use those ancient sciences to create like an effective routine. How would you say that your routine helps you to lead your business? Like everything, like putting everything together, you said like you looked into different personality aspects of yourself. You looked into Ayurvedic science. You looked into yoga. How does that like shape your day?
It's super important. I like to get up early and I need to move right away. And then I know the struggle I have is because I like to get up and I like to go to the gym and I want to meditate, I want to do breath work, but I should be creating during that time because that's the time when my mind is working very sharp. But I also feel great and I want to go out and go to the gym and do those things. So I'm trying now to get to work and get creating from 8 a.m. till 11. But I should be doing it earlier. But I like to get up at 5:30 and have a good 2-3 hour practice of just like whatever I want to do that day. But it's usually involving meditation, breath work, and movement, and reading. And so that's the time where I can soak in information where everyone else isn't awake yet, and I can just pack it in. And then I'm a better human all day because I've just done my self work and I showed up for me first. And that routine is groundbreaking for me. So then the rest of the day, it's like I've already been a good human for a few hours. Great, tick the box. You're a good boy. And then the rest of the day, I can just deal with what comes. But at least I don't have that building block at the start of my day that I handled. And then routine throughout the rest of the day, I've time blocked when I'm going to be creating, when I have time for other meetings, other people. And then I always time block at the end of the day to start toning it down and have the evening ritual. And I know that I like to be in bed by like 9:30, 10. You know, that's great for me. And if I can be asleep by 9:30, I'm winning life. I'm excited about it. You know, it's the best. And Sasha, who you just had on, he's a night owl. He's the opposite. Mm-hmm. He likes to work late into the night. He's the complete opposite. You know, I think he's very Vata. And so he likes to be on the other end of things. He looks like a Vata Kapha kind of guy. But that's what's important, is to make sure that I have things scheduled and regimented that I know work for me. And I like to stick to those things because I just operate better.
Yeah, and I think that's something really interesting. It does not come from a dogmatic point of view, like I need to get up at 4 or 5, you know, and just like become a robot. It's more about, hey, I just tried a few different things and that works for me. And that helps me to just like be more present also.
That's so important. Experiment for what works. So find out about yourself, do the research, and then do that. Like what feels good and what has the best outcomes. Because I know Sash was really trying his hardest to be getting up at 5 a.m. and then meditating or 4 a.m. during Vipassana. And like we're up early and that might not work for his body type. It's not just that he's not good at waking up early. It's that, hey, that's just not what's serving his body type. So then he's crashing in the middle of the day and he's creative at night. A lot of people are the creatives. They love to get up at night and that's when, boom, ideas come in. And that's an important time for them. And if you smother that time and if you sacrifice that time, you're smothering some of your genius. And it's like, no, that's the time when you shine. Go ahead and do it. Whereas if I slept in till 10, I'm smothering my genius. That's the time in the mornings where I'm on fire and I can create amazing things. I need that time.
And I think that's so important for people to know, right? Instead of being like, oh, I fail and getting up early, just use that time consciously in the evening. You know, just don't use it to stay up late and playing video games or whatever, you know?
That's the difference. You can't just be like, I'm not a morning person, but you're up all night and just binge watching Netflix. That's not how it works, okay? You need to be creating. When is the time where your genius is alive? Not the time where you can binge watch, you know, Netflix.
And I think then you don't need to worry about your health, right? It's not about like, oh, my health can't be good because I go to bed late. You know, a lot of people worry about that. No, it's how you use your time. It's always about how you use your time and what works for you. So you created a program, the full reset. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I've shared a little bit, like I restarted my life. I completely restarted my life and then I was able to build businesses out here. And it was a huge jump for me. You know, I went from chaos and depression and, you know, doing things that didn't make me or my family proud, and then going into a space of finding contentment, fulfillment, and creating amazing things, 5 businesses in 5 years in paradise. And I learned a few things along the way. And I feel like it's my duty now to help other people do the same. You know, there's a lot of people that want change, especially after this crazy year. You know, people want a full reset. People want to go do something else. Now is the best time to leave wherever you're from, especially if you're stuck in lockdown. Get the hell out of there. Come to paradise and start over. You know, start businesses, and I'm here to help. So the coaching program's going to help people get out of what they want, their fundamental steps on change, on resetting their life, and creating abundance. It'll help you in personal life. It'll help you in habits, routine, and then into starting businesses. And it's especially for people that are on the fringe of society that don't think they can make it in the office world. Don't worry, I couldn't either. What helps is that you have transferable skills, that you do have genius inside of you, and we're going to find the genius within you and bring it out so you can create. Do what you're good at, play to your strengths, and start over and be happy. And that's really what it's about. That's
amazing. And you can do that online, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, absolutely. They can find me through my Instagram on Ink Pray Love, and I'll be putting one-on-one coaching programs together. There'll also be some free groups that we'll be putting out soon, so people can just jump in and do some of the basic practices of like morning routines and things like that, so we can help people get in. And then if they want to do the full package of move to Bali, start over, start businesses, be awesome, got you.
Move to Bali or anywhere in the world.
Sure. But it also comes with my network that I've been out here. I have government connections, I have immigration connections, I have business agent connections. I've come out here, and through my genius of connectability, I've created a network around me that I'm going to be happy to help people start over and do the same.
Perfect. So we're going to link that in the show notes. So everyone who's interested, like working online with you or then coming to Bali. And I think it's so important that we just share that knowledge, because I think you went through a lot building businesses in Bali. It's not that easy.
It's not easy. I get people all the time that just message me out of nowhere and say, hey, was it easy to move to Bali and start businesses? And I just write back, no. That's it. No, it wasn't. It was hard. It takes a lot to come out here. But if I had me now helping me then, I would crush it. It came with a lot of learning, a lot of tough learnings. You know, it came with a lot of meeting the right people and figuring things out along the way. So I could save people years and money and trouble.
Can you share one funny story with us? Because I think it's always nice to see that, like, you know, you didn't come out from like nowhere and just like rocked it here, just like something where people can relate, you know, and because we all had that moment where we just like, oh, wow, big fail.
Yeah. I came out here not knowing too much, and I rented a bed and breakfast off of an Australian. Sorry, our cameraman's Australian. If anyone who's listening to the audio, I gave him a dirty look. And so I rented it off of this older Australian guy, and I made the mistake of thinking that was a better idea. But obviously, you're paying 3x for what you would be paying if you actually just worked directly with a Balinese person. And so I paid so much more than I should have to rent out a villa for a bed and breakfast and then try to make money out of it. And I would have profited so much more if I just came here and had a bit more savvy, a bit more business smarts around that. It's like go local. You can find better local. It just took me a little bit more. I was scared of taking the risk. And I figured, oh, he's someone foreign, like it'll be safer, which was super stupid and discriminatory, naive. You know, I made a silly, naive mistake, and that wasn't the right way to do it. I wasn't that comfortable with the language there, but I didn't quite need to. I made local friends right away. So I made a faux pas. It was a bad decision, and I could have done better if I had known that one piece of gold. Is you can go there and you can find the right people. Don't be a sucker and go for the first person that's kind of okay. You know, it was a bad decision.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this.
But that villa was fun. We had some crazy times. Yeah.
I think it's always a balance about like things you need to experience yourself, right? Sometimes we need to make mistakes, right? But on the other hand, it's so valuable if someone just like for some things can take you by the hand and just like show you a way, like I've been there, I've done that, so let me help you.
I've made enough mistakes for both of us, for all of you. I've made enough mistakes for everyone. I got you covered on the mistakes end. Just let me help you.
Perfect. So just to close our conversation, as you know, the podcast is called The Science of Life. And I would love to know what the science of life means for you.
Ooh, that's a deep question. You know, it's funny because I always say to people when they ask me a question I don't have the answer to, and I'm like, what am I, a scientist? And I always think it's like a funny thing to say, and you're actually a scientist, so you can't say that. Sorry. I'd say the science of life for me is experimenting and guessing and checking what makes you happy. It's not what makes you rich. It's not what makes you famous. It makes you feel good and you're happy and you're helping people. So the science of happiness is giving and love and actually connection. So the science of life for me follows those rules. Are you giving? Are you inspiring? And are you connecting?
Wow.
That's it.
Beautiful words. Thank you, Aren. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your experience. And yeah, thanks for creating.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you feel inspired. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook at Dr. Dania Schumann, or you can find me on Instagram at Dania Schumann. You can also hop over to my website. It's in German, but you find there a lot of recipes, more inspiration about Ayurveda and nutrition and yoga, of course. And yeah, more about personal development, more about my background and my biography. So yeah, I hope to see you there. Hope to connect with you on social media. Please share this episode if you liked it. Please subscribe to the podcast. That helps and supports my work. And yeah, hope to see you soon. Namaste.